Be'ez Hashem, today's daf is daf lamed. Okay, today's daf is daf lamed. We're going to start from daf Chavtes Amud Beis. Just to begin, let us just discuss the Mishnah, which we saw earlier. The Mishnah said that if a person said, right here on the bottom of the page, daf Chavches, the Mishnah says, if a person says, Harei netias ha'elu carbon achi yikatutsu, he says that these saplings should be a carbon until I chop them down. That means I want it to always be holy as a carbon. Now, obviously, you can't tree onto the mizbeach, but it means the Mishnah says Hain lehem pidyon. Very interesting. That normally, if you a tree to the Beis Hamikdash, what you do is you transfer the holiness of the tree onto money, and you send them to the Beis Hamikdash. But here, what we don't allow to be done is we don't allow that. Because he said, I want it to be holy until it gets chopped down, it always remains holy. It always remains holy. And not only that, I'm going back to where we're going to start today. Not only that, it remains holy. If you try to paida it, it comes back. The kedusha comes back. It's almost like you're saying, I want this tree to be holy, that if I redeem it, automatically the redemption shouldn't work, and I'm re-sanctifying itself again and again and again. So you can never redeem it until you chop it down. Once the tree gets chopped down, then you sort of said that at that point, if I redeem it, the holiness on the tree goes to is redeemed and is transferred to the money. Okay, that's a very important point. And let's read what the Gemara is going to say. Yosef Rav Oven was sitting, Rav Yitzchak Rebbe, and Rav Yitzchak, the son of Rebbe. So here you know that Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the author of the Mishnayos, the editor of the Mishnayos, had a son, Rav Yitzchak. He was sitting, Rav Oven, Rav Yitzchak was sitting, Kamed Rav Yirmiyah, in front of Rav Yirmiyah. The Komanam named Rav Yirmiyah. And the Rebbe, it seems, the rabbi was sleeping, falling asleep. So a discussion ensued between the Talmidim while the Rebbe is sleeping. Yosvi v'Kamri, they were sitting and saying, Lepar Pada, according to Bar Pada, who explained our Mishnah, that when a person said that I want this tree to be holy up until the time I cut it, so he's saying to himself, I'm limiting myself that I will not redeem this tree. And if I do redeem this tree and I try to redeem it on money, automatically I'm transferring back from the money back onto the tree so that the tree becomes re-sanctified again. So the redemption doesn't work. You transfer it on the money and it really retransfers back to the tree. That's how he explained that's how Bar Pada explained our Mishnah. Hi, Louis, we just began.
Hey.
So we just began with Daf Chavtes Amud Beis. So according to Bar Pada, who said that when someone who was metadesh that tree, based on what he said, that the tree remains holy up until the time he chops it down, Padan, if you try to redeem it, it returns and it sanctifies the tree. So you try to transfer the holiness of the tree onto money, it gets retransferred back to the tree. Without you, it's almost as if you said it should transfer back. So now the Gemara asked Tifshay. Let's try to answer a theoretical question. I don't think this question ever happened. Hi, Sheldon. We're just on the top of Lamed Amud Aleph. The boy Rabbi Shaya asked a question, a theoretical question. A man goes over to a girl, right? And he says, he gives 2 pennies, 2 prutos, 2 coins to a woman. Now, really, all you need is 1 coin to marry a woman. Then he told her, with 1 coin, hiskachili hayon. be betrothed to me today. Okay. What's the second coin? Uba'achas, with the other coin, with one coin, hiskat sheli la'acha she'agar sheikh. After I give you a divorce, that should be a coin that you should re-sanctify yourself. So I don't have to say harayat mukudeshus li again, because after you get divorced, automatically you should become mukudeshus again. Hachanami. So Rabbi Ishaya had this question: would it work? Because at the time that you divorce her, she's still, she had a coin that you gave her, but you didn't say harayat mukudeshus li at that juncture. You only said it the first time. You said, I'm giving you 2 coins. One coin you should be mukudeshus li today, and one coin should be that you should be mukudeshus to me after I give you a divorce. You should become betrothed to me. So he didn't know what the answer to that question is. But what we see from our Bar Pada, who said that sometimes you can do that. You see, just like you said by the tree, you take the tree, you try to transfer the kedusha of the tree onto coins, it gets retransferred back to the tree. So also, hachanami dahabekachi kedushi. So also over here, it's mukudeshes. Even though you're not saying anything, just like by the tree, you don't have to constantly repeat that I'm transferring back from the coins back to the tree. So also over here, after the girl gets divorced, which automatically she's holding on to a coin, she should become betrothed again without him having to say anything. So that's what the Gemara wanted to answer Rabbi Shaya's question from the opinion of Bar Pada. So that was this discussion of Rab Avin and Rab Yitzchak in front of Rab Yirmiyah, who was sleeping. Itabu Rab Yirmiyah, and Rab Yirmiyah woke up, and he overheard in his dreamlike state what they were discussing, and he had answered, "You can't compare. Amalahu my komedamisun padanhu lepadaum acherim." How can you compare the situation of the tree with the situation of the kedushin? So what does he mean to say? He's trying to say is that when can't you redeem the tree is only if the person who consecrated the tree in the first place is trying to do the redemption. He's the one that said, this tree should be holy up until I cut it down. So basically he's saying it should forever remain holy, that even if I try to redeem it on money, that I transfer the money, automatically I'm transferring back and the tree becomes holy again. That's basically what he's saying. But what would happen if somebody else, a stranger, came along and said, I'm transferring the kedusha of this tree on my money. So now I own the tree. A second guy came. So that case, the tree could become redeemed because the second guy never said anything that he's transferring back the holiness on his money back onto the tree. And the first guy that made that commitment, he has no control over somebody else's money. And that's how it works. So Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Padonhu, if the person who said the neder, or who said the first guy who said that he wants the tree to be holy until it's cut down, yes, if he would redeem it, it would continue to return back and become holy. But Padoum Acherim, if other people a second person would try to redeem it, then it works. Then the tree does not become holy again, because that person never committed that he's transferring back the holiness that he put on his money back onto the tree. So the tree now becomes the ownership of the person that the other person, the second person that came to redeem it. So now what's the point? The Isha, the case of the woman, is kifadu acherim dami, is like a stranger that redeemed it. In other words, when a person divorces his wife, it's not like the wife returns to him. The wife now goes back to her own domain. In other words, who controls the wife? The wife herself. She becomes now, reacquires herself. So therefore, she requires herself. And in order for a marriage to take place, she has to consent to a marriage. It's not something that can be forced upon her. And when she consents to a marriage, she consents to a marriage in such a way that she becomes like public domain, which allows a husband to acquire her. That's how it works. So she is consent. We still need her consent that she allows herself to be acquired. And that didn't happen yet. That has to happen after the divorce. So therefore, it wouldn't be comparable to our case. Our case, you can say, if the person himself, if the tree comes back to the original person, the person can reconsecrate the tree. But here, when a man acquires a wife, at first, the acquisition of the wife belongs to him. But when he divorces her, now the transfer of the wife goes back to the wife, to somebody else. Now the lady herself owns herself, and therefore he cannot reconsecrate her without saying again Harayat Mukudeshes Li and giving her a new coin. So that's why he said you can't compare Bar Pada's case to Rabbi Shaya's case. It was taught the same idea. Omar Rab Amma, Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Rab Amma saying the name of Yochanan. Lo Shana was not taught in our Mishnah that it has no pidyon. When you say, a man says to a tree, you're holy like a carbon until you get chopped down, then it always forever remains holy, even if you try to redeem it. It's only referring to El Shapadan Hu. If the person who said that neder and the person who made the tree holy, he tries to redeem it. But if other people try to point to the tree, it doesn't return to become holy again, because that's it. It belongs to somebody else. And that other person never agreed that once he redeems, it should the redemption money, the kedusha on the money should transfer back to the tree. So it never becomes holy again. And in fact, if another second party redeems the tree now belongs to the second party. It's just that he has to send his money to the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, that just
Bernard, could the husband make a condition that even for a moment she will not become public property to someone else, and that set a condition, and that maybe way he could actually that would count in him saying that without actually saying it?
Well, let's take the case. He gave her 2 coins, a nice and 2 prutusly each. He gave her 2 coins, and he said one of them be mikudeshes to me today, and one of them be mikudeshes to me after I give you a divorce. So after he gave a divorce, he doesn't repeat again the words that you're betrothed to me. It should happen automatically. That's the question. Does it happen automatically or it doesn't work? So the Gemara wants to say that it should work. And the Gemara concludes that it doesn't work, because after she gets divorced,
she's public property.
She's not public property,
but she's free.
She belongs to herself.
Right. She's free to herself. Right.
When I said public property, is I was referring to
that was with a tree. I understand that. What I mean is she's independent herself.
No. What the Ran says, how does any kedushin work? It's not like she's selling herself to him. Every kedushin, when a man betroths a woman, it's not like he's buying her and she's selling himself. That's not the case. Let's say I buy a car. So I'm buying the car. The man's selling me his car. When it comes to marrying a wife, it's not the same. Because look what I'm pointing to. If a woman agrees to get married to a man, she nullifies her own opinion, her own awareness. Kidavar shel hefker. She now becomes, he says, okay, I'm not going to stop you from buying me. In other words, I make myself hefker, and then the Baal could bring her over into his domain. So therefore, it has nothing to do with the woman, only from the husband. And for the husband, it's as if somebody else redeemed her, because now she was in her own domain and not husband's domain after she left him, after she got the divorce. So therefore, you can't compare it. But that's a good point that you may not even see in the whole Masechta Kedushin. The Ran over here in Nedarim explains how does a marriage work. It's not like she's selling herself, because if she was selling herself, then you can use the language Hareinu Uresis Lecha. If a woman would say, "I am betrothed to you," would that work? It doesn't work, because that implies that she is trying to sell herself to him.
Right.
and that doesn't work in a kedusha. It has to be that she's making herself hefker, and the only one who's buying something is him.
Okay, I understand.
They have problems with, like, say, these. Sometimes they have weddings that have they give each other a ring, and there's nothing wrong with that. Each partner gives a ring, but if it's done under the chuppah, some rabbanim will have a problem with that because that implies that he's buying and she's selling.
Right.
And that's not what the Ram says. The Ram says she's just letting herself be taken from hefker.
It's a one-way street only, supposedly. It should be that way.
It's not blocking his ability to that's the way.
Right.
Now the Mishnayos are very easy and just playing with words over here. And then just to play with words to see what does it's like, what did the man mean when he said something? Hanoider miyar dehayam. If a man says, I'm not benefiting from those that always go on the sea. So professional cruisers or sailors, right? So he says, I don't want to have benefit from anybody who's a seagoer. So he's permitted to have benefit from those that are, who are on dry land, who are not cruisers and not sailors. But if he says, I want to not benefit from anybody who's living on dry land, and it's also for a time period. It's not like forever because that's impossible. He says for like 1 week, I'm not benefiting from anybody who lives on dry land, anybody who lives on planet Earth. Not planet Earth, but in dry land. So the Mishnah says also he's prohibited miyar dehayam to any sailor who's always out at sea. Why? That person's always out at sea because that's included in his neder. Those that go to the sea eventually come back on dry land. So if you answered everybody who's on dry land, you include people who are seagoers. Now the Mishnah says something cryptic, which the Gemara is going to right away explain. What is considered a seagoer? It's not like those that go from Akor Yafo. Akor Yafo is like, I don't know if you've taken the ferry from Bell Harbor to New York City. It like hugs the coast. You don't go out to sea. It's like a ferry that takes you like 40 minutes and you're in Manhattan, right? So that's not called a seagoer. Ella, what's called a seagoer is a cruiser, a guy who takes it out into the ocean. Ella b'misha darka lefarish, person who goes far away from dry land out into the open sea. Now, what is this Mishnah, that part of the Mishnah, trying to say? So Rav Papa, Rav Acha B'rei Rav Ika, Rav Papa and Rav Acha B'rei Rav Ika explained the Mishnah, that part of the Mishnah. Chad Masna Reisha. One said that last clause in the Mishnah is going back on the beginning of the Mishnah, the Chad Masna Sneifa. And once explained that it's going on the latter clause of the Mishnah. Explains the Gemara. Man Detone Reisha. One that said that this part describing who is considered a seagoer is referring to what it says in the beginning of the Mishnah. And we add that point to the beginning of the Mishnah. And this is what the Mishnah says. The beginning of the Mishnah says, someone who makes a neder not to benefit from those that go to sea, he's permitted to benefit but those who are on dry land, right? But for those that are seagoers, he's still prohibited. He assered himself on seagoers. So does that mean, so for sure, he assered himself on somebody who goes to a cruise, or somebody who's a sailor who goes out to sea. But what about somebody who takes a ferry? Did he mean that? He doesn't mean to aser ke'elu. We go to Amid Beis, Lamed Amid Beis. Those that go from Akol Yapa, the Halein, those type of people, since they take their ferry ride that hugs the coast, Yosh v'Yabasha Ninhu. They're people who are on dry land. And therefore, they're not included in his neder. He only meant Yordei Hayom, he's not permitted to benefit from. And Yordei Hayom is somebody who's a real deep seagoer. Somebody who goes out to sea for a long time. Oman, the Tanya Seifa, one explained the last clause, the last statement on the Mishnah to the end of the Mishnah. And this is what it means to say. The Mishnah said, if you make a neder, I will not benefit from somebody who's on dry land, who lives on dry land. Also, b'yardei hayam. He's prohibited from somebody who goes on the sea. Because why? He just said, I want not benefit from somebody who lives on dry land. Well, every person who's a sailor really keeps an apartment on dry land. So he eventually gets to dry land and has a permanent dwelling place. But most of the time, he's like a pilot. He's flying somewhere or going somewhere. So, but he's considered Yoshvei Yabasha. And but not just for somebody who goes from Akal Yapoy, that's called a seagoer. Even if it's a person who's on this transatlantic cruise, he's somebody who's out to sea for months at a time, he's also included in the neder of Yoshvei Yabasha, of somebody who dwells on dry land. Why? Since eventually he's going to come back onto dry land. So therefore, everybody is included in this neder. So that's how you explain that last clause in the Mishnah. Now it gets interesting again. The Mishnayos say, and this is I found fascinating. You'll see something in the Gemara that we only discovered recently. And the Gemara says it just like as a side point. You have to really be attuned to really pick up on it. The Mishnah says, what happens if someone says, I make a neder, meroye hachama, from those that see the sun. So for those that can see the sun, the Mishnah says, so he's usher on all humans, at besumin, even if it's a blind person. Now that's a question. If he said that I don't want to have benefit from those that can see the sun, right? And of course, he's not saying that I'm forever going to be usher. He's just saying, let's say for a week, I'm not benefiting from humans that can see the sun. So why is he prohibited even for a blind person to have benefit from a blind person? Because shaloi niskaven zeh elami shechama roya oisan. He meant to say that it's not that those that can see the sun, because he should have said royan esachama, but it means somebody who the sun sees them. So that includes not only people who can see, but even a blind person, because the sun rays shine even on a blind person. So he's included in the neder. So my timer, what's the reason? Why he said see the sun, not the sun sees them. Since he said min haroyin, from those that see the sun, he said the word roye hachama, the sun sees. So it's referring to the sun sees that person. So the sun sees people who can see, and sun shines its rays even on blind people. So even blind people are included in the neder. So who's not included in the neder? And this is what I found fascinating. What's not included in the neder? If you look on anything on planet Earth, everything on Earth that's a creature has sunlight, and the sun has life because of the sunlight. So the Gemara says la'apuke. This comes to exclude the ones that are not included in the neder is dugim, fish. Now, most fish that we know of benefit from the sun. The sun rays penetrate into the ocean at least 1,000 meters. So, but we always thought until modern times that once the sun doesn't reach any deeper in the ocean, there's no life on the bottom of the ocean. And therefore, it's impossible to have life there because the sun doesn't reach there. So, but the Gemara says that there are fish there, and that the sun doesn't reach there. That the sun doesn't see them. How's that? Because now we know that there are cave fish. There are fish that have evolved with eyes, without eyes. We know of fish with eyes, but there are fish without eyes, and they live on the bottom of the seabed. So therefore, they're excluded from the neder because they don't live with the sun. And ubarim, and a baby inside an embryo inside a mother's stomach also doesn't benefit from the sun. So those are excluded from the neder. So I found that pretty interesting. Next Mishnah, somebody makes a neder that he's not going to benefit from somebody who has a black head. Black head usually means somebody who's dark, has black hair. Nevertheless, also is prohibited but tarchin, and somebody who's bald. Now that's a question. He only said, I want somebody who has black hair. Ubal sevas, even if they have white hair, he's prohibited. to benefit from a person like that. So basically, it's all males. Umuter, but he's permitted to benefit benashim with women, uktanim and small children. She'ein nikroin shchayroish, the ones that nobody's called dark heads. Ela anoshim, men are called that. Men have dark hair. Now the Gemara has to explain this. What do you mean? My timer. Why? If he says I want to make a neder of people who have black hair, why is he usher on somebody that's bald? Answers the Gemara, midlay kamar, since he said Baal Seor, or he should have said Baal Seor Shchoyer, who has dark hair. He forgot to use the word hair. He just said black heads. So since he didn't use the word black heads, so he meant another way to call the male species, but he didn't mean somebody who has hair, and therefore he's also with bald people. And he wasn't particular about bald people, even people with white hair, because he didn't mention the word hair. But umuter benashim ketanim, but he's permitted to benefit from women and small children. She'ein nikroin shchayrei roish el anashim. Men are only called blackheads, but not women. Why not? Because my time at anashim, because men zimnim the michsi. Sometimes a man covers his head; he wears a hat. Rashayu, v'zimnin the megala rashayu. Sometimes he uncovers his head, so you can see his black hair. Avol nashim, women la'olam michsu, should for always cover their hair, and therefore, if someone when he said dark heads, it can't be referring to women because you can't see the hair of a woman. Okatanim and small kids la'olam miglu are always uncovering their hairs. So therefore, it cannot refer to nashim or ketanim. So therefore, when he said mish chayre rice, from people who sometimes have black heads, which means men sometimes cover their hair and sometimes uncover their head, but kids always have their head uncovered. So it can't be referring to kids, and women it can't be referring to because they always cover their heads. So therefore, it refers to only men. That's how the Mishnah explains it. Next. Hanoida min hayeludin. Someone makes a neder from that he's not going to benefit from people who were born. Okay, mutter ben ladim. He will be permitted to benefit from those who were not yet born. So he only asked himself people who were born already, but not in the future who will be born. Because hayuludim does not mean future. But if he asked himself min hanoilodim, from those that will be born, so the Tanakama holds also min hayuludim, they're also from those that are born, because noiladim, will be born, actually means double meaning. Those that were born, those that will be born, and those that were born. So he's also on everybody. Rav Meir says mater af ba yuludim. Rav Meir needs explanation. Rav Meir seems to say that not only is the future permitted for such a person, but even people who were born already. So we will explain Rav Meir in the moment in the Gemara. But be that as it may, the Tanakama holds if you say min hanoi lodim, those that will be born, don't think that it only answered those that will be born, but you answer for even those that are born. And the Chachamim Oimrim, so Chachamim explain that, which is the same as the Tanakama, what do they mean by born? He only had intention to include in his neder those that are born like humans are, or animals, but excluding like fish and birds who don't give birth, but they lay eggs. So that's not included in his neder. Okay, so the Gemara asks a question, according to Rav Meir, when you say noiladim, you mean, and he says, everything is mutter, noiladim, elami mine aser. That means that, does Rav Meir says that you're also mutter on the future born, and also those that were yet born, then what is the neder? What is the neder? I mean, if you're permitted on those that yet will be born, and those that were born, so then from who are you going to be aser? What is the neder doesn't take effect? And it seems to imply that Rav Meir doesn't say the neder is totally permitted. So, there's something mishning in the Mishnah. Let's read the Mishnah again. Somebody makes a neder that I'm not going to benefit from those that were born. He's permitted from those that will be born, but also those that were born. Min hanoi lodim, if he makes a neder from those that will be born, so then the Tanna Kama holds noi lodim means everybody. Also by yaludim, he's also, not only that, he's also on people who were born already. Not only those that will be born, but those who were born. Rab Meir says no. Just like even if you make a neder from those that will be born, you're permitted to benefit from those that are born. Just like if you make a neder from those that are born, you're permitted on those that will be born. It's not all inclusive. So when you use the noiladim, you're permitted on somebody that was born already, but you only usher on those that are not yet born. Now, I know this sounds confusing, but the way to remember it is yolid, hayolid means somebody that was born. So that for sure does not include somebody who will be born. Okay? And that's the way people speak, and that's the way it's written in the Torah. Hayoludim usually means somebody that's born already. Noilodim, so according to the way the vernacular of people, Rab Meir holds, people will say noilodim to include somebody who is born already and in the future, because the Chumash uses it that way. But Chachamim say no, it means both. The Chachamim says it means both, like it's written in the Chumash. But Rab Meir says no, it only means those that were born in the future, not in the past. Because even though in the Chumash it's used in a double way, but the way people speak, noilad means something not yet born, not including something that was born. Now the Gemara just explains it. Amalei Rav Papa Labaya. Rav Papa said to Abaya, Lememra, do you want to say, according to Rabbi Meir, the word noiladim means the misyaldu mashma, means that somebody that will be born, elameata, let us examine this pasuk. Shnei benecha ha-noiladim l'cha be'eretz Mitzrayim. Yaakov was saying to Yosef, your two borns that were born to you in Mitzrayim, Ephraim and Menashe. Now, Ephraim and Menashe were born already, and yet Yaakov uses the expression ha-noiladim, that will be born. So the word noiladim means, would you say that word noiladim means they will be born? No, noiladim means they are born. So noiladim doesn't mean future, it means present, that have been born. So the Gemara says, would you say the word noiladim means that was born, but it does not mean that will be born? Let's examine this pasuk. There will be a child born for the family of David, and his name is going to be Yashio. So there, it certainly means that it will be born. It was born already. Menashe was not yet there. Ella, says the Gemara, and this is the bottom line, there's a double meaning to this word noilad. Noilad means mashmahachi, umashmahachi. It means both. It can mean double. It can mean like this. It can mean that will be born. It could also mean that were yet born, that were born already. And that's the way Rab Meir holds, that not only is it the way the Torah views the word noilad, but that's the way people talk. But the Chachamim said no. That's the way the Chachamim learned. But the Rabbi Meir says no. The way people talk, they change the meaning from the Torah. And the way people talk, noilad means only in the future. And that's why Rabbi Meir says, when it comes to Nedarim, halech achel l'shoim b'nei adam. Always go after the way people express themselves, how people understand what the word means. And over time, people have changed the meaning of the Torah to the way people speak. And therefore, noilad is an example according to Meir. In the Torah, noilad means both will be born and children that are born. But the way people speak, it only means somebody who will be born. I'll just give you one example. The word Baal Choiv. Baal Choiv, usually you mean, if we talk to somebody and you say he's a Baal Choiv, means he's the borrower. He owes people money. But in the language of the Torah and the language of the Gemara, Baal Chov means the lender. Like you say, Baal Chov, somebody collects, a lender that's collecting, he takes the medium land. He could collect from a medium, not the best property, not the worst property, but the medium property. So Bal Choiv is an example of things change, the way people talk and the way it's written in the Gemara. So same idea. People talk differently, and then when it comes to Nedarim, you just go after the language of the people, not the way it's written in the Torah. The Chacham says, he only meant to exclude from his neder. He included in his neder every human, the ones that were born, that ones that will be born. And what's excluded in the neder, lapuke, dogim v'oifis, as we explained, it excludes fish and birds, which are not born. They're laid in eggs. So therefore, they're not included in his neder of Yuludim. So that ends the Mishnah. And this is how the Mishnayos are going to continue examining, playing around with different languages and what the person meant.